how are you doing? This is Pastor Cheryl. There's a few things I wanted to touch on, and I know I've repeated myself several times. This thing about the rapture, it scares people because they know that things will get very bad on the planet Earth before they're raptured. They're raptured, and it's just before some horrible disaster happens. And so, anyway, this frightens old people, and they just don't care to hear it. So far, this rapture, or the end of the world has been taking place under our own feet. And we don't really realize it. We do, but we don't. Like all of those sea mammals, like the whales and the porpoises and whatever being beached. A whole bunch of fish dying, we're going through mass extinctions. And so the planet is in travail. It is kind of dying. The sun is about 1 degree hotter than it usually is, which makes the Earth and the entire star system 1 degree hotter. That does affect us. That really does. The continents are cracking. The inside of the planet has stopped spinning, and it's going into retrograde. That's interesting. That is interesting. All this discussion of the second coming and the return of Christ, will be returning with him, of course, for the millennium, where we help him rule and reign. We'll be helpers in that entire thing. And so, but the end of the world has been happening. And the death of the planet and the changes in our star, called the sun, has been happening. And it's just not like you could stick your head in the sand. It's been going on. And it's a sad thing. I mean, I would like it returned to when it was quite normal when I was a kid. Yeah. And so now we have a normal winter. Lots of snow. I remember that when I was a kid. Lots of snow. And we got snow for the past couple of days. And now, today, we got more snow on snow. That's more normal for the Midwest. That's our normal. And what's also normal is sometime around New Year's, we have a cold snap where it's just, 20 below, 50 below. They said it wouldn't get like that this year. It remains to be seen. We'll see. Because so far this has been kind of a normal winter. It's here just a tad early. Usually when I was a kid, it didn't snow till after Christmas, around New Year's. Yeah, that's pretty typical Midwest. But now it's snowing, around Thanksgiving. That's a tad early, but that's happened before. It really has. But our planet is aging, and so is our sun. And we don't realize it, but it has these corona holes in it, these big, big holes. And it's spitting out a lot of energy, this mass ejections. And, now we have the equipment to watch this stuff. When I was a kid, we didn't. They just said there were sunspots. There were sunspots every so many years, but this hasn't died down. They said sunspots every 11 years. This hasn't died down like it usually does. This is going on and on and on. There's something going on with the sun. There is something going on with the sun. Let's be scientists about this. Let's be little scientists and really do some reading on this. The crimes are getting horrendous. I mean, every time I pick up my cell phone, there's some announcement of something horrible. Horrible. Mass shootings, and just really just horrific stuff. Some ex-boyfriend or boyfriend kills off his girlfriend's children, and could be his own kids. And, and things like, a husband killing a wife, a boyfriend killing a girlfriend, and, and the things that they do to kill them, disposing of the body. This stuff is getting pretty bad, and there's just a lot of it. Now and then something weird used to happen, okay? When I was a kid, something weird used to happen. But now it's a lot more frequent. And I think that our sun acting up and the planet stops spinning in the center and going into retrograde, I think it's affecting all of us. And some people are more sensitive than others. Some people are born with mental illnesses. And it's a hereditary thing. It's just like, it runs in families. Sometimes it runs in families. I'm glad we don't have it in my family, but we've got other things going on. Heart disease. My dad had heart disease, big time. And I had a great-grandmother with diabetes. Of course, she was old. She was old and heavy. And that happens with age. Years ago, women used to have like a half dozen or a dozen kids, and it was a little hard on the body, And then they come down with something horrible when they're old. Yeah. So anyway, we're seeing a lot more of this. We're finding cures to things which was supposed to happen in the last days. That's a good thing. Cure for cancer, cure for, Alzheimer's, cure for other things. And so, and that's a good thing. And it's just before we wink out. Yeah, we're going to, the star, our sun is changing, and it's going to get very hot, and it's going to make our world uninhabitable for a while. But then when we return with Christ for the millennium, we'll be here back 1,000 years while he rules and reigns. And the reason for 1,000 years is that's how long life will be considered sustainable on this planet. Then we'll have to go somewhere else. Well, depend. Let God help us and help find the way. But anyway, that is apparently my view of the rapture and the second coming and the millennium. There is a future, and it's a bright one. It's a bright future. Once we get past this rough spot in the road, we will be good. The tribulation, that's the rough spot in the road. But once we get past that, and I will be leaving with the rest of the Christians, and yes, we will be returning and helping, the planet Earth, helping everybody. And so there will be many people left. There will not as many now, but there will be many people left to help. So I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.